Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Raus IAS Study Circle. Join the official Telegram channel of Raus IAS Study Circle to stay updated and get all the materials on the Telegram. The link to the channel can be found in the description box.
Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading.
Now today we are going to discuss the important news appearing in the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 11th November 2021.
This particular analysis is done by both of us, that is Naweed and me.
The news to be discussed has been displayed on your screen and time stamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So on this note, let's start our today's discussion from our UPSC prelims and mains point of view. Now continuing with our weekly mains answer writing practice, the question for today's week is: adequate nutrition is necessary to solve the problem of hidden hunger among the undernourished population of India. Comment. This question carries 10 marks. Now you must submit your answers by the end of Sunday, and anyone submitting the answer after Sunday will not be evaluated by the evaluation team. And please submit your answers in the portrait mode only, and do not submit your answers in an inverted manner or any manner inconvenient for the evaluation team, as it becomes very difficult to evaluate such answers. Now continuing with our series on discussion of UPSC prelims question asked in 2021 from set A, let's take up question number 67. Now it says Bollgard 1 and Bollgard 2 technologies are mentioned in the context of. Options were A. Colonial propagation of crop plants, B. Developing genetically modified crop plants, C. Production of plant growth substances, C. Production of plant growth substances, and D. Production of biofertilizers. Now an understanding of the concept of Bollgard could have been achieved through this particular question asked in the prelims test series. It said which of the following statements are correct. Options were: first, yellow rust is a fungal disease which turns crops' leaves yellowish and stops photosynthesis activity. Second, the pink bollworm is an insect known for being a pest in cotton farming. Third, nanozymes are nanomaterials that can disintegrate the cell membranes of a range of disease-causing bacteria. So in this, the question was select the correct answer using the code given below. And in the explanation, it mentioned about the pink bollworm. It said that the pink bollworm is native to Asia but become an invasive species in most of world's cotton growing regions. And in parts of India, the pink bollworm is now resistant to first generation transgenic BT cotton, that is Bollgard cotton, which expresses a single BT gene, that is CRY1AC. So this knowledge was sufficient to answer this particular question, whose correct answer was B, that is developing genetically modified crop plants, in this case Bollgard cotton. And coming to the answer of this question asked in FLT, the answer was D, that is all of the statements are correct. So let's take up this news appearing on page number 1, which says Union Cabinet brings back the MPLAD scheme, and under the scheme MP shall get rupees 2 crore each instead of previously approved rupees 5 crores. So earlier, because of COVID-19, the Union government had suspended MPLAD scheme which is given to MPs. However, the government has decided for a partial rollback of the MPLAD scheme. Now this MPLAD scheme becomes important. As you can see, a question was asked in the prelims of 2020. Now first of all, let's go through this question and then we'll try to understand that what we need to know about MPLAD scheme. So it says that with reference to the funds under Members of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, that is MPLADS, which of the following statements are correct? Options are: first, MPLAD funds must be used to create durable assets like physical infrastructure for health, education, etc. Second, a specified portion of each MP's fund must benefit SC and ST population, that is scheduled caste and scheduled tribe populations. Third, MPLAD funds are sanctioned on yearly basis and the unused funds cannot be carried forward to the next year. And fourth, the district authority must inspect at least 10% of all works under implementation every year. So this question dealt in detail about the MPLADS funds, how the MPLAD fund is used or unused in the subsequent year. So these are the things which we need to know about MPLAD funds. Now the funds under the Members of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, that is MPLADS, is provided to each MPs for developmental work in their constituencies. So the MPs can take these funds and tell the district administration to carry out certain developmental work. And the implementation of the scheme is entrusted to Members of Parliament Local Area Development Division, which functions under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation under Government of India. So this particular division is entrusted with the responsibility of implementing the MPLAD scheme. Now it says that under the scheme, each MP has the choice to suggest to the district collector. So there is an involvement of district administration as well. And this suggestion by the MP to the district collector is with respect to the works to be done up to rupees 5 crores per annum. So this fund is provided yearly. That is, this fund of rupees 5 crore has to be used per year. Further, it says that even Rajya Sabha members of parliament can recommend works in one or more districts in the state from where they have been elected. And next, it also mentions about the nominated members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It says that these nominated members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha may select again any one or more districts from any one state in India for implementation of their choice of work under MPLAD scheme. So definitely they can choose their area of work or any developmental activities which they wish to pursue and suggest the district administration, particularly the district collector, with respect to implementation of developmental work carried along through the funds allocated under the MPLAD scheme. So coming to the first option, yes, MPLAD funds must be used to create durable assets like physical infrastructure for health, education, etc. And for this purpose, funds under MPLAD scheme can also be merged along with MG Narega to carry out work under MG Narega. So this becomes another important highlight of MPLAD's funds. Now, in order to know about the other options provided in this particular question, let's understand some of the important highlights of MPLAD's funds. Now, the first important highlight which we have already seen, that it is being implemented through the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. And regarding the amount allocated, MPLADs allot rupees 5 crore every year to each member of parliament. However, because of COVID-19, this MPLAD fund was suspended for 2 years, and now the government has decided for a rollback. And in this regard, and as of now, rupees 2 crore per year has been allowed so far by the union government. Now, with respect to amount allocated, there is also an aspect of release of funds, based on which a question was asked with respect to the fact that whether the unused funds can be carried forward or not. So regarding the release of funds, it is released in 2 installments. So the 2 equal installment of rupees 2.5 crore each shall be released directly to the district authority of the nodal district of members of parliament concerned, and the MPLADS fund are non-lapsable. Now this was the point which was asked in the examination. So it says that funds released to the district authority are non-lapsable in nature, which means the remaining funds can be utilized for the next year. So it says that it means that the funds sanctioned under MPLADS can be carried forward for utilization for subsequent year, that is the next year. It further says that the funds not released by the Government of India in a year will be carried forward for making releases in the subsequent years. So clearly, MPLAD funds are non-lapsable and can be carried forward for the next year. So, based on this understanding, the third option becomes incorrect, as it says that MPLADS funds are sanctioned on yearly basis, which is true, and the unused funds cannot be carried forward to the next year. No, this is incorrect, as the unused fund can be carried forward. Now, after understanding about the amount allotted under MPLADS, let's understand about the role of district authorities, especially with respect to implementation of MPLAD scheme. So it says that the district authority will be responsible for overall coordination and supervision of the works under the scheme at the district level, and shall also inspect at least 10% of the works under implementation every year, and the district authority should involve the MPs in inspections of projects to the extent feasible. It then says that the district authority shall enforce the earmarked 15% and 7.5% of the funding for MPLAD works in scheduled caste and scheduled tribe areas respectively. It further says that the district authority shall maintain the work registers indicating position of each work recommended by the MPs and shall also furnish work details along with photograph of each work consisting of rupees 5 lakh or more to the Union Ministry. It further says that the district authority shall also maintain a register of all the assets created under the MPLAD scheme and subsequently transferred to the user agencies. It further talks about the role of district authority with respect to inspection of the works executed and also about review and audit of the work. So it says that the district authority shall inspect all works executed by the societies or trust under MPLAD scheme and overall ensure that the conditions have been complied with as was earlier agreed upon regarding implementation of these MPLADS funds. It further says that in case of violation of any of the provisions of the agreement, actions can be taken by the district authority. And the district authority shall also review every month, that is, a monthly review shall be carried on by the district authority, and in certain cases, at least once in every quarter, regarding the implementation of MPLAD works which is taken up by the implementing agencies. So progress of work which is done by implementing agencies shall be reviewed by the district authorities either monthly or once in every quarter, that is once in every 3 months. And in this regard, the district authority shall also invite the member of parliaments concerned to such review meetings and also send a report of such review meetings to the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So these are some of the important role played by district authority, especially with respect to implementation of MPLADS fund for developmental work in the districts or constituencies of each member of parliament. Now regarding the nodal district, it highlights that if Lok Sabha constituency is spread over more than one district, then the member of parliament can choose either of the districts as the nodal district. Now the members of parliament are also recommended to spend at least 15% of the fund on areas inhabited by scheduled caste and at least 7.5% of the MPLAD funds on areas inhabited by scheduled tribe. Now regarding creation of community assets, in case there is insufficient tribal population in the area of Lok Sabha member, then the MPs may recommend to use the amount under MPLAD funds for creating community assets in tribal areas outside of their constituency but within their state of election. So MPs can also suggest for creation of community assets in tribal areas, and in such state which does not have scheduled tribe inhabited areas, this amount may be utilized in scheduled caste inhabited areas or vice versa. Further, the MPLAD funds can also be utilized for developmental work to be carried on in areas prone to be affected by calamities such as floods, cyclone, tsunami, earthquakes, hailstorm, avalanche, cloudburst, pest attack, landslides, drought, fire, chemical, biological or other hazards, etc. Next, there is also a provision for convergence of MPLADS funds with MG Narega or even Khelo India program. So overall, these can be said to be some of the important highlights with respect to MPLADS fund. Now based on this understanding on MPLADS fund, the second option becomes correct as it says that a specified portion of each MP's fund must benefit the SC and ST population. So the second statement becomes correct. Whereas coming to the fourth option, it says that the district authority must inspect at least 10% of all works under implementation every year. So this statement also becomes correct. Whereas the third statement becomes incorrect as the unutilized fund can be carried forward for the next year. So the question is select the correct answer using the code given below. So here the correct answer becomes D, that is 1, 2 and 4 only. Now after understanding about some of the important highlights of MPLAD funds, let's also go through some of the concerns in case a question is asked based on critical analysis of MPLAD fund or examine the aspects of MPLAD fund. So, in this regard, the areas of concerns can be said to be widespread corruption, especially with respect to misutilization of fund by district authorities, and this aspect of increased corruption and misutilization of funds has also been highlighted by the Public Accounts Committee report of 2012. Now, another area of concern becomes the gap with respect to funds given to district authorities and funds actually utilized under MPLAD scheme. So discrepancies has been noticed with respect to funds disbursed and also funds utilized under MPLADS. Now another area of concern becomes delay by district authorities, especially with respect to issuing of work orders, because the implementation of developmental work to be carried on under MPLAD funds is to be done by district administration. So in this regard, delay has been witnessed by district authorities, especially with respect to issuing of work orders. And this aspect has been highlighted by CAG report. Further, there are also lapses with respect to monitoring, supervision and also inspection of the developmental work carried on under the MPLAD scheme. Now another area of concern is with respect to delay in sending monthly or quarterly report by district authorities. Now here with respect to the role of district authorities, we saw that district authority shall review every month or in case at least once in every quarter implementation of the MPLADS work. Further, the district authority is also duty bound to inspect all works executed under the MPLAD scheme. So the area of concern becomes delay in sending these monthly or quarterly reports, especially with respect to implementation of work by the district authorities. Now another area of concern is that local authorities are better placed to supervise work. However, this work is done by district authorities. So work done under MPLADS effectively replaces work at local level, and also poor quality of work has been reported by CAG in its report. So these can be said to be some of the areas of concerns with respect to developmental work carried under MPLADS fund. Now the National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution also raised certain objections with respect to MPLAD schemes. These objections were with respect to misuse of funds, as it says that Comptroller and Auditor General of India from time to time in their report has mentioned about the misuse of these funds. It further says that it is against the concept of separation of power because the scheme violates distribution of power between union, states and local governments level as has been defined in the constitution, and it also mentioned that MPLADS is inconsistent with the spirit of federalism. And based on this understanding that it is against distribution of power and also against federalism, even the Second Administrative Reform Commission in its report on ethics in governance also suggested to abolish the MPLAD scheme. Now another objection was with respect to allocation of finance at local level. So it says that development of local areas must be demarcated to local leaders at the level of panchayats and municipalities as per Constitution 73rd and 74th Amendment. So the NCRWC in its report pointed out that all the activities on which MPs can spend their funds at have already been provided under the state list. So in a way, it also violates some of the provisions with respect to 73rd and 74th Amendment. And in this regard, MPLAD scheme undermines functions of local bodies by creating incentives for MPs to provide basic civic services such as roads, bridges, street lights, which are constitutionally the responsibility of local government as mandated by Constitution 73rd and 74th Amendment. So these were some of the objections raised by National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution. So the issue of constitutionality of MPLAD fund was raised, and in 2010 a 5-judge constitution bench declared that MPLAD scheme is constitutional because there is no violation of the concept of separation of power, because the role of member of parliament in the case is merely recommendatory and the actual work is carried out by the panchayats and municipalities which belong to the executive organ. Further, the court said that the guidelines provided with respect to implementation of MPLAD schemes provides for effective checks and balance, and effectively each member of parliament is ultimately responsible to parliament for the work done under MPLADS. So based on these understandings, the Supreme Court declared that MPLAD scheme is constitutional and it is neither inconsistent with the spirit of federalism as defined in the Constitution of India. So this topic of MPLADS becomes important both from our prelims and also mains perspective. In the prelims, this topic gets covered under Indian polity and governance, and in the mains, it gets covered under GS paper 2, especially with respect to functions and responsibilities of the union and states, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure, devolution of power and finances up to the local level, welfare scheme for vulnerable sections of the population by the center and state, and also important aspects of governance. Now, based on our discussion, this becomes your practice question for your mains examination. It says that in light of the objections being raised against constitutionality of members of parliament, local area development scheme, that is MPLADS, critically examine the role of district authorities in its implementation. And this question carries 10 marks. So after understanding about the MPLAD scheme in detail, especially with respect to important highlights of MPLAD scheme, aspect pertaining to role of district authority with respect to implementation of MPLAD scheme, and also areas of concerns and certain objections raised by NCRWC, that is National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution, let's take up our next article for discussion. Now the next news to be discussed appears on page number 7. It says, come up with measures to eradicate manual scavenging as per Madras High Court. Now this article mentions about the fact that Madras High Court has issued a number of directions with respect to taking meaningful measures by the state government of Tamil Nadu in order to remove or eradicate manual scavenging completely, and also to provide harsh punishment for the same. That is, harsh punishment in case if manual scavenging is enforced. Now, manual scavenging can be associated with Article 17 of the Indian Constitution, which is a part of fundamental right. Now, Article 17 mentions about abolition of untouchability. Now, it is often seen that manual scavenging is mostly done by people belonging to the lower caste, or mostly scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. So, Article 17 says that untouchability is abolished and its practice in any form is forbidden. The enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. And based on this understanding, even the Madras High Court has issued number of directions to eradicate manual scavenging completely. So in this regard, the Madras High Court has stated or called for a status report from the government within 4 weeks. And in this status report, it has asked the government for fresh enumeration or counting of people involved in manual scavenging in the state. Now, similar step must be taken by the central government in order to find out the exact number of manual scavengers in entire country. Further, the court also agreed for increased compensation in case of deaths caused due to manual scavenging from present rupees 10 lakhs to rupees 50 lakhs. So the court agreed for an increased compensation because of death caused by manual scavenging or cleaning of the septic tanks. Now, the court also asked the state to educate those involved in manual scavenging and erase the impression from their minds that they cannot take up any other vocation. So, the court also asked the state to encourage those involved in manual scavenging to find other alternatives of employment. So, the court has asked the state to submit a report within 4 weeks. So, in this regard, let us understand certain aspects pertaining to manual scavenging. Now, Article 17 of the Constitution resulted in enactment of the Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955. However, this act only covered offences against untouchability but did not cover any of the offences of atrocities committed against members of scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. And accordingly, the government enacted the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Now, this act merely touched upon the aspect of manual scavenging and also punished for carrying animal or human waste, and also punished such members who dumped excreta or human waste on the doors of members from scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. Further, in 1993, the government enacted the Employment of Manual Scavengers and Construction of Dry Latrines Prohibition Act of 1993. So this act effectively provides for 3 aspects. Number 1, prohibition on manual scavenging. Number 2, rehabilitation of manual scavengers. And number 3, it also aims to provide for an alternative mode of employment to those people involved in manual scavenging. So, the Act says that it aims to provide for prohibition of employment of manual scavengers as well as construction or continuation of dry latrines, and also for regulation or construction and maintenance of water sea latrines and for matters connected with the same. Now, this article also focuses on the dignity of the person carrying on manual scavenging by highlighting about fraternity, which has also been provided in the preamble to the Indian Constitution. So, based on this understanding, this act prohibits manual scavenging. It also aims to rehabilitate manual scavengers and also aims to provide for an alternative mode of employment to such people. Now, despite enactment of this particular law, there are certain challenges which still remains. The first challenge which we have also discussed is that manual scavenging still remains caste-based occupation and is mostly done by Dalits, which is scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. Now, the practice of manual scavenging in India goes back a few centuries and its roots lies deep within the caste-based occupation in India. Now, Dalits, considered to be the lowest in caste hierarchy, were and still continue to be employed as manual scavengers. And even within the Dalit community, it is the lowest among the subcaste who undertakes manual scavenging work. So, there is a need to completely stop manual scavenging and provide alternative opportunities to people employed in such inhuman activity. Further, the government must also create social awareness against caste discrimination, especially for people engaged in such inhuman and undignified activity. The second challenge is that number of deaths with respect to manual scavenging still remains very high. And as per the House Listing and Housing Census of 2011, there were approx 7.94 lakh latrines in the country, from which night soil or human waste was removed manually by humans. Now, though the construction of dry latrines has drastically reduced, the number of deaths in manholes, sewers and septic tanks still continues to be very high. So, number of deaths still remain very high, especially death caused in manholes, sewers or septic tanks. Now, another problem highlighted was by Socioeconomic Caste Census of 2011, as it revealed that there were 1,80,657 manual scavengers in rural areas of the country, as per the data of manual scavengers released by Ministry of Rural Development as of July 2015. Now, both these data with respect to 7.94 lakh latrines and 1,80,657 manual scavengers is a very old data. So, in the present circumstances, the government need to have an exact count with respect to number of manual scavengers so that the government can provide them for alternative mode of employment. So, as of now, there is a lack of clarity on present data. The next challenge is that there is a need to mechanize sewer cleaning and accordingly take steps for labor safety. So, all these challenges and concerns with respect to manual scavenging must be addressed as quickly as possible by the government. Now, with respect to prohibition and complete eradication of manual scavenging, let's also go through action plan on implementation of self-employment scheme for rehabilitation of manual scavengers for the year 2020-21. Now, this national action plan has been formulated in consultation with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation to eliminate manual cleaning of sewer system and septic tanks and also rehabilitate workers engaged in manual scavenging. Further, the National Action Plan for Mechanized Ecosystem is a coordinated action by different ministries where the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment will act as the nodal ministry to implement this particular scheme. And the nodal ministry will ensure role of coordinating ministry dealing primarily with monitoring, rehabilitation and skilling of sanitation workers engaged in such hazardous cleaning activities. Further, the government also aims to provide financial assistance under the Swachhta Udyami Yojana, under which loan will be provided at a concessional rate of interest of 4% per annum. Now, there are a number of steps which has been planned by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. So, the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has prepared an action plan for the next year 2020-21, and as a part of the plan, various steps includes one-time cash assistance to manual scavengers, skill development training to such manual scavengers, so that they can seek alternative employment, capital subsidy for self-employment projects, health cum awareness camps, workshop on prevention of hazardous cleaning, behavioral training, especially with respect to upskilling program. Another aspect is subsidy component of loans to manual scavengers, sanitation workers involved in hazardous cleaning, and their dependents for purchase of small machines for mechanized cleaning of sewers and septic tanks, and also campaigns to create awareness about the Manual Scavenging Act 2013, self-employment scheme for rehabilitation of manual scavengers and mechanized cleaning. Now, based on this action plan, certain amendments has been proposed under the Manual Scavenging Act of 2013. So, the Act aims to include septage treatment plant and such other spaces which emits toxic gases or effluents in the definition of hazardous cleaning. So, this action plan aims to expand the definition of hazardous cleaning. It then says that it aims to facilitate survey of septic tanks by local authorities to facilitate effective supervision over maintenance of these septic tanks. So survey of septic tanks is important to know and find out how many of such tanks needs to be cleaned. Further, construction of septic tanks as per prescribed specification for mechanized cleaning, then including sewage and septage system and any other system emitting toxic gases or influence. Provide more stringent penalties for engaging persons for hazardous cleaning of sewers and septic tanks, which the Madras High Court also agreed. Compensating families of the persons who die while cleaning sewers and septic tanks. Appointing responsible sanitation authority and inspectors. Ensuring responsibility of local authorities for providing service for mechanized cleaning of sewers and septic tanks. And the state government must also provide financial assistance to local authorities required for mechanized cleaning of sewers and septic tanks. So these are some of the amendments proposed under the Prohibition of Manual Scavenging Act of 2013 under the National Action Plan. Now this topic becomes important both from a prelims and mains perspective. In the prelims, questions can be asked under the section of polity and governance and also with respect to rights issues, whereas in the mains, question can be asked with respect to challenges in implementing Prohibition of Manual Scavenging Act. And regarding your syllabus, it falls under functions and responsibilities of the union and states, welfare schemes for the vulnerable sections of the population, mechanisms and laws, institution or bodies created for the protection and betterment of these vulnerable sections, and also important aspects of governance. Now moving on to page number 12, this news must be seen mainly from the prelims perspective. It says India-US monitoring defense trade projects. Now this news mentions about the Defense Technology and Trade Initiative. So here you need to know about the Defense Technology and Trade Initiative, which is a meeting between India and United States to strengthen their bilateral ties, especially with respect to defense projects. So the news says that the 11th Defense Technology and Trade Initiative group meeting between India and United States was held virtually recently on 9th November 2021. Now these DTTI group meetings are normally held twice a year, alternating between India and the United States. Now aim of this meeting is to bring sustained leadership focus to bilateral defense trade relationship and to create opportunities for co-production and co-development of defense equipment. Further, with respect to 11 Defense Technology and Trade Initiative, 4 joint working groups focusing on land, naval, air and aircraft carrier technologies have been established under DTTI to promote mutually agreed projects. Further, as a part of DTTI, India and United States have also agreed on a revised statement of intent to strengthen the dialogue by pursuing detailed planning and making measurable progress on several specific projects. So this 11 Defense Technology and Trade Initiative will help to improve bilateral relationship between India and United States, and this will also strengthen India and United States bilateral defense trade relationship, and it will also help in creating opportunities for co-production and co-development of defense equipments. Now this news should be seen mainly from the perspective of security and also from the perspective of bilateral relationship between India and United States.
Page number 11 of today's newspaper presents an article which talks about Center approves incentive for sugarcane, cotton, jute and farmer. Now this particular topic talks about an important issue which is minimum support price. Now when you look into this particular issue, this comes under part of GS paper 3 under economic development. As a sub-theme, you can see that the topic of minimum support price has been clearly highlighted in this particular syllabus. But before moving further, in order to understand this article, let's understand the real way in which we should understand this so that we are UPSC ready. Now in 2018, UPSC has asked this question. You can see here that on the screen that we need to identify that Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has announced minimum support price for which of the following. So we need to understand that this particular aspect of minimum support price, along with that, it is applicable to which crops is very important. Now, when we were doing this topic in 2018, we were aware of the fact that coffee was not part of it because it is commercially grown at a large scale. So this does not qualify under the minimum support price regime. And because of that, we could remove wherever 3 was mentioned. And in this fashion, we could identify that the correct answer was option B, that is 2, 4, 5, 6. So this is a way to identify the correct answer. Now it is important for us to understand how we can actually make the best use of this article to understand more about minimum support price, what kinds of problem it poses and how we can overcome that. So the basic information that we can draw from this particular article is that we should have a very clear-cut understanding of minimum support price. Now, as far as minimum support price is concerned, there are many governmental bodies which are important. The first such body is Commission on Agriculture, Cost and Prices, which is also called as CACP. Now, this is the body which basically recommends. So when you talk about this CACP, this is the body which recommends the minimum support price. Now, once the minimum support price is recommended, it goes to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, which is called as CCA, which notifies. So here it is important for you to understand that Commission on Agriculture Cost and Price, this recommends MSP and notification is done by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. This can be a question for prelims examination as well. Now once we move forward, then we can understand that once MSP is announced, then MSP is announced in current scheme of things for 22 different commodities. So what are these commodities? We need to understand that. The first set of commodities is cereals and there are 7 of them. So what comes under these? Paddy, wheat, maize, sorghum, pearl millet, barley and ragi. So these are the 7 cereals which are added to this list of 22 commodities. Apart from that, there are 5 pulses as well. And when you talk about pulses, these include gram, tur, moong, urd and lentils. So in this fashion, you can see that there are 5 pulses which are added to this list. So here we can see that there are 7 oil seeds which are included in this particular list. What are these? These are groundnut, rapeseed mustard, soya bean, sesame, sunflower, Niger seed and safflower. Apart from that, there are 3 commercial crops as well which include copra, cotton and raw jute. So we can see here 3 here. So 3 commercial crops, 7 cereals, 5 pulses and 7 oil seeds. This is the constitution of 22 commodities which come under the regime of MSP. Now one important fact that you must know about MSP, that MSP does not enjoy statutory backing. Although it is announced by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, but MSP does not have statutory backing and this is one of the problems. Now is the time to understand how MSP is fixed. Now, in order to understand the process of fixing MSP, we need to understand what are the parameters which are used to fix it. The first parameter is cost of cultivation and production. The second parameter is productivity of crops. And third parameter is market prices. And which institute or body does it? That is CACP. You might have seen that on the left hand side of the screen, that is Commission on Agriculture Cost and Prices. So this is the body which basically recommends MSP and these are the parameters which the body uses in order to set MSP. Now when you talk about MSP, there are 3 approaches. First is A2 approach, which includes cost of inputs such as seed, fertilizer and labor and based on which MSP is decided. The second approach is A2 plus FL approach. Now here FL means family labor. So whatever is included in A2 approach, that is cost of inputs such as seed, fertilizer and labor, this is part of it. Apart from that, implied cost of family labor is also included. The third approach, which is actually recommended by MS Swaminathan Commission, that is C2 approach, which includes the implied rent on the land and interest on the capital assets and A2 plus FL. So A2 plus FL along with these capital assets, interest on it of course, and rent on land. Now C2 approach is considered to the most comprehensive approach which can be used to calculate the MSP. So here it is also very important for you to understand what is the current approach that the government follows in order to fix the MSP. Now here the MSP is fixed by considering that the cost of production as calculated by A2 and FL approach and fixing the MSP at least 50% above it. So this is the mechanism which the government is using. So they are using A2 plus FL approach. Apart from that, they are adding a minimum of 50% over this value in order to fix the MSP in current scheme of things. Now, as we have understood what is MSP and how it is fixed, we must also understand the flaws with this MSP regime which are highlighted by multiple commissions and committees. Two such important committees are one, Ashok Dalwai Committee, which was created for doubling the farmers' income. And second is Shanta Kumar Committee, which deals with FCI reforms. So these are important committees and you must keep a note of them. Ashok Dalwai for doubling farmers' income and Shanta Kumar for FCI reforms. The first limitation of MSP regime is actually leads to cultivation of water intensive crops. Now, when you talk about water intensive crops, in 2021 prelims examination, there was question, you can see on the screen as well, among the following, which one is the least water efficient crop? So this particular topic has been asked in UPSC. The correct answer for this is option A, that is sugar cane. Now, we need to understand why this is a flaw. Now, we need to know that government announces MSP for 22 different commodities. However, as far as procurement is concerned, procurement goes primarily for rice and wheat. Other crops which primarily come under pulses or oil seeds, the procurement is quite low. And hence, what this particular process of MSP has done, it has incentivized the cultivation of water intensive crops. Second important aspect is lack of safeguards. Now, this particular thing emerges from the fact that MSP is not statutory in nature. There is a possibility that farmers have to sell their crops in the open market at price which is lower than MSP. Now there is no mechanism which is available which can actually compensate the farmers for the loss they have incurred because they are selling their crops for lower than the MSP. So this is the second problem with the MSP regime. Third limitation of MSP regime actually comes from the kind of method that we use. We are aware of the fact that government uses A2 plus FL approach plus 50% increment minimum. But this particular approach actually does not compensate the farmers adequately, according to some economists, in which name of MS Swaminathan will be on the top, who have recommended C2 approach for actually defining the MSP. So we can see that in the current scheme of things, this particular approach is flawed in nature as well. The next limitation is the kind of MSP regime we have followed is actually benefiting the large farmers. And this is highlighted very well in the Shanta Kumar Committee recommendations on FCI reforms. This committee clearly highlights that MSP procurement has benefited only 6% of the farmers. So you can see here the kind of impact MSP has. It has very limited impact on the farmers as such. So who gets benefited? Only the large farmers who have higher surplus of agriculture commodities, they get benefited out of this MSP regime. Small or marginal farmers, which constitutes around 83%, they do not enjoy the benefits of MSP regime. So you can see that the kind of system that we have followed in the MSP, this is a big limitation. One more limitation of MSP regime is undue delay. Now we have seen that on some occasion, government has not announced the MSP on time, and this has led to a lot of confusion among the farmers in terms of what kind of commodities they can produce, or they have to sell their produce at lower than the minimum support price offered by the government. And as we have seen that there has been lack of safeguards, so this actually leads to loss to farmers. So we can see here the MSP regime needs an overhaul so that farmers are benefited, they produce right crops, they produce crops which are based on water budgeting. Apart from that, there should be more safeguards. The right approach, as recommended by many economists, is C2 approach, and we should actually resort to a system in which farmers who actually need it in terms of benefits of this particular MSP, they get benefited. It should not be limited to a particular group or a smaller group of people who have all the resources. So in this fashion, we can actually use this article to understand the regime of MSP, how it is actually fixed, and what are the limitations of MSP regime. Page number 7 of today's newspaper talks about Coringa set for fishing cat collaring project. Now this topic is important from the perspective of prelims and will come under general issues on environment, ecology, biodiversity and climate change. Now we must understand that UPSC has asked similar question in the past as well. One such example can be a question which was asked in 2020. Now in 2020, UPSC has asked with reference to India's desert national park, which of the following statements are correct? First is, it is spread over 2 districts, so this is a correct statement. Second is, there is no human habitation inside the park. This was incorrect. There was some tribal population which is found there. Third is, it is one of the natural habitats for great Indian bustard. This was correct. By that logic, the correct option is option C, that is 1 and 3 only. Now we can expect similar type of question for this Coringa wildlife sanctuary as well as this fishing cat. So we need to understand this topic in detail. So here you can see that the Coringa wildlife sanctuary is here, and this is the river Godavari. This particular wildlife sanctuary is adjacent to Andhra Pradesh, that is on the north, and on the south there is Pondicherry or Puducherry. So this is something that you must be aware of. Now you can see that there are a few interesting aspects. It is situated in the East Godavari district of Andhra Pradesh and is characterized by tidal mangrove forest of the Godavari estuary. This particular area has also a distinction of being the second largest mangrove formation in India. Now we also need to understand that apart from the contribution of Godavari, there are rivers of Coringa and Gaderu, and their deltaic branches intersect in the region, which leads to this kind of mangrove forest. And we are aware of the fact that when we talk about mangrove forest, they provide a unique ecosystem which can actually give a lot of diversity in this particular region. This area was declared Coringa Wildlife Sanctuary under Section 26A of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, and it took place way back in 1998. Now in this particular region, around 35 species of mangrove forests are found. Important is to understand that there is important fauna that is found as well, and we are talking about fishing cat, which is the topic of this discussion as well. Apart from that, Indian smooth-coated otter, jackal, olive ridley turtle, saltwater crocodile, etc. are also found. Now, one unique aspect about this wildlife sanctuary is that this is home to the critically endangered white-backed vulture and long-billed vulture as well. As per the estimates of Andhra Pradesh government, it is estimated that around 100 fishing cats are found in this particular region. Now we are aware of the fact that mangroves are very important part of this ecosystem. When we talk about mangrove, the primary service of mangrove is basically coastal protection. Now when we talk about coastal protection, mangrove forest basically protect the coastal area from the vagaries of cyclones, waves and floods. Apart from that, they also prevent soil erosion, which basically protects the nutrient in this particular region. Second important aspect is they also provide water filtration. Now, when you talk about mangrove forests, they basically filter pollutants by trapping them and not allowing them to meet the seawater. This is very important aspect in terms of water filtration. Next important aspect is climate regulation. As clearly mentioned, carbon storage potential of mangroves is 3 to 5 times higher than that of tropical upland forest. We should also know that nutrients and carbon from mangrove forests provide essential support to other near shore marine ecosystems such as seagrasses and enrich coastal food web and increase fisheries production. So when we talk about fisheries, there are 3000 varieties of fisheries which are basically breeding in this area, and we need to understand that this is also benefited by climate regulation or carbon fixation done by the mangrove area. Now, the importance of any ecosystem basically deals with what kind of a livelihood or support it provides to people. When we talk about mangrove forest, it provides livelihood to around 120 million people across the world. This is a very significant number which actually signifies the importance of mangrove forest in our life. Now, the people who live in the mangrove areas are basically dependent on the forest produce, which also includes honey, tannins, or wax, etc. So, we can say that the livelihood of these people is actually dependent on the yields of mangrove forests. Apart from that, in order to support livelihood to these people, we also require wood, which also act as a system of sustaining these people in this particular area. Recently, there has been a focus on ecotourism as well, and mangrove area is also very important for promotion of tourism. There are over 2000 mangrove related attractions globally, which actually includes boat tours, boardwalks, kayaking, and fishing, which is very important for the livelihood of people living in this area. Now let's focus our attention on this fishing cat, which is actually listed as a vulnerable under IUCN Red List. Now the basic habitat of this fishing cat is facing destruction of wetlands and have declined severely in the last decade. Now when you talk about this fishing cat, they are found in the vicinity of wetlands, along the rivers, streams, oxbow lakes, and swamps and mangroves. Fishing cat is also the state animal of West Bengal. Now we also need to pay attention to the locations where this fishing cat is found. So in this map you can see that this fishing cat is found in Sri Lanka. You can see that this is found in India, the coastal area. Then this area where West Bengal and Bangladesh, the common area, these are found. Apart from that, it is also found under the Southeast Asia as well. So these locations are very important, and this particular topic is important from the perspective of prelims examination. So do not miss these pieces of information.
Now, based on our discussion, this becomes your practice question for the day. It says, consider the following statements. First, minimum support price for agriculture in India is fixed by the Ministry of Agriculture. Second, government uses A2 plus FL approach to calculate minimum support price for various crops. And third, cash crops do not come under the regime of minimum support price. The question is, which of the statements given above are correct? Options are A, 1 and 2 only, B, 2 only, C, 2 and 3 only, and D, 1, 2 and 3 only. Now coming to the answer of yesterday, the question was, consider the following statements. Sir Creek is part of Gulf of Khambat in Gujarat. No, this statement is incorrect. Second, it is under the international control of UNCLOS. No, the statement is also incorrect. So here the correct answer becomes D, that is neither 1 nor 2. So with this we come to an end to discussion of today's analysis. Thank you for watching DNS.